Then moving on, we have Jet Li. I've got a lot of Jet Li films on Blu-ray, so any of the ones you don't see here, I probably have on Blu. Let's see. This one has a bunch of great movies. I got this for $1 like a couple years back. Born to Defense. I don't like that title, Born to Defense. I mean, it should be Defend, right? Born to Defense. I don't know. The Defender, The Legend. Legend 1 and 2 are phenomenal Jet Li movies. Love both of them. Haven't seen any of the Once Upon a Time in China or China and America movies. And then this randomly has a Stephen Chow film, From Beijing with Love, which is sort of his 007 send-up. Contract Killer. A lot of these, like this one doesn't have a Chinese dub. It's just got some asshole dubbing all of Jet Li's lines. The Enforcer, Cradle to the Grave, another one I saw in theaters. DMX, I loved it, obviously, when I was growing up because I was a hip-hop kid. Loved DMX growing up, so, Jet Li, DMX, hip-hop, Rough Riders all over the soundtrack. Cradle to the Grave, fun movie. The Master, haven't seen that one. Meltdown, just watched this last night as of recording this video. And this is a Jet Li for the first time, and this is Jet Li's Die Hard. And shit is it fun. Directed by Wang Jing, who's prolific Chinese martial arts director and actor. I mean, he's directed over 100 films. And Meltdown is a blast, man. Just balls to the wall. It's brutally violent. I mean, even more violent than Die Hard at points. People's heads getting shot off. And you see it, unlike in Die Hard, which, artistic touch. But Meltdown's great. Check it out. Like I said, Jet Li's Die Hard. And in the first 5 minutes, a busload of children and women blows up. So it's not fucking around. Once Upon a Time in China trilogy there. Like I said, I haven't seen those yet. This is interesting. This isn't a martial arts film. This is Jet Li doing drama. Here it's pretty good. Then we get into one of the legends, the Master. One of the progenitors of the martial arts action hero. That is Gordon Liu. He was doing stuff in the 70s that people weren't doing until the 80s in America. And so we have Deadly Mantis, which is a funny one. Has like a practical giant mantis. This is sort of horror, and it's a pretty fun one. And again, one of my favorite action movies of all time, ever, 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. You may know U-God from Wu-Tang had a line, 8 Diagram Pole. But 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. And this one is directed by Lau Kar-leung, who did Legend of the Drunken Master and 36 Chambers. One of the greatest, 3 of the greatest action films of all time. Now, Lau Kar-leung is also known as Liu Chia-leung, or Lang. These names really, I try my hardest, as you could tell. But so Lau Kar-leung is Liu Chia-leung. And he directed this, 36 Chambers of Shaolin, and Legend of Drunken Master with Jackie Chan. So 3 of the greatest action films of all time, in my opinion. This movie's brutally violent. Some awesome, awesome action sequences. One of the greatest final acts in ever. People are exploding, quite literally. It's phenomenal, guys. Check out 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. I don't care who you are, what kind of action movies you like or don't like, check out 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. And this one is from the 80s, so this is an 80s action movie, technically. So, moving on, Fist of the White Lotus, Fury in the Shaolin Temple, Instructors of Death, Return of the 36 Chambers, sequel. There is a third one, forget what it's called. Shaolin Drunken Monk, this is a good one. This is a fun Gordon Liu movie. Anything with Gordon Liu is awesome. Shaolin vs. Evil Dead, I'm looking forward to checking this out. I would imagine Gordon Liu doesn't have much to do with it, but we'll see. Then we get into Donnie Yen, and to be honest, I haven't gotten into Donnie Yen's work too much, but I do own a bunch of it. Drunken Tai Chi being one of his first, if not his first, so that's pretty cool. Iron Monkey 2, he was in the first one, but I do own that on Blu. And Legend of the Wolf, that's a good Donnie Yen film. Moving on, we have my favorite actress, my favorite actress of all time, Michelle Yeoh. Butterfly Swords with Donnie Yen. Great movie. Heroic Trio, I talked about this recently in my 90s Forgotten Superhero Movies video, and praised it. I love this movie. This is directed by Johnny To. Action directed by Siu Tung Xing, who I've talked about a few times. Love Heroic Trio. And I also love these 2 movies absolutely to death. Magnificent Warriors even more so. This is her Indiana Jones. I mean, it's an Indiana Jones-esque action film starring Michelle Yeoh, who does all of her own stunts, of course. Directed by David Chung. God, this movie is so phenomenal. And this whip wire thing she has is such a cool weapon, and she uses it. And it's badass. Royal Warriors is, whereas Magnificent Warriors is a period piece, takes place in the early 1900s, before World War II, just like the Indiana Jones films, the originals. And Royal Warriors takes place in more of the modern day setting. So, it's still excellent. Both are phenomenal. I love almost all of the films she's done where she's the star. Haven't seen Silverhawk. I've heard mediocre things, but I think I'm going to like it because of Michelle Yeoh. Now, Super Cop 2, this goes by Project S as well, I believe. Not as good as Super Cop with Jackie, but damn near close, man. Like, this movie is so much fun. The female Jackie Chan, I mean, that's unfair. She's just Michelle Yeoh, you know what I mean? She's badass in her own right. This one actually has a special appearance by Jackie Chan, who's in drag, so it's pretty funny. And another Stanley Tong film. Stanley Tong did Super Cop, the original Super Cop. He also did Rumble in the Bronx and a bunch of other great Hong Kong films. So, and what do we got here? Oh, yes. Wing Chun. Maybe her best film overall, but not. It's tough to say. I got to get a new case. This is phenomenal. This is about the woman who founded the martial art of Wing Chun, and Michelle Yeoh plays her. And this is when she was doing Tomorrow Never Dies, which she's great in, but she's known for. She made so many other great films before that, and But Michelle Yeoh, absolutely love her. One of my favorite actors or actresses of all time. Definitely my favorite actress. And love her to death. So, moving on. I need to get Yes Madam, or Yes Ma'am, or Yes whatever it's called. Yes Madam, I think it's called. Moving on. We're moving a little further away from action, but we have, some of these are questionably action movies. They're probably action movies, more thrillers. This is more my crime, thriller, psychological thriller sort of area, This is the toughest area for me to really categorize, so bear with me. But 3 Days of the Condor, that is a Robert Redford film. Not bad. A lot of people love that movie, but I'm not too crazy about it. Yeah, some of these kind of tap dance on drama, really, too. So we got a gangster film here, Australian gangster film, which should be with my gangster film collection, which is in the other shelf. But Australian gangster movie, I've heard great things about. Really looking forward to seeing that. David Michaud's, one of his earliest films, he did The Rover. Archangel, starring Daniel Craig, sort of a political thriller with him, with some action bits, pretty good. At Close Range, that's Sean Penn and Christopher Walken. Haven't seen this one. It's supposed to be really good, though. James Foley. Bad Lieutenant, oh man, this is a f***ed up movie, starring Harvey Keitel. Great role, man. Like, such a transformative role, or transcendent role, I should say. Transformative, too. This is Abel Ferrara. You either love Abel or hate him. I think I grew up in Connecticut, in the tri-state area, very close to New York, so I love the films that take place in New York. I grew up going to New York all the time, and I just love the films that portray New York as like that gritty, grimy place that it was in the 80s and 90s. Moving on, Badlands, some Terrence Malick. And Bandits, an underrated little movie, man. Heist movie starring Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, and Cate Blanchett. Again, this should be in my heist movie area. This is a Barry Levinson film, and really underrated. I've seen this film a couple times, and I remember when it came out, it was not getting good talk, but I was like, oh, this movie's great. Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton. Really cool movie. Check it out. Bestseller, James Woods, Brian Dennehy. Not a bad crime thriller. $1 Billion Brain, this is a Ken Russell film, one of the few of his that I haven't seen, starring Michael Caine. Expect Madness. Black Rain, one of my favorite Ridley Scott films, and I believe one of his most underrated films. Drenched in atmosphere, beautiful cinematography, great soundtrack, great score, I should say. Some really cool action bits, but this is more of a crime thriller, straight up. starring Michael Douglas and Andy Garcia. So just great, moody 80s film there. Blood In, Blood Out, a great sort of Mexican-American gangster film, street film, urban film, directed by Taylor Hackford. This is a great movie. Benjamin Bratt. Really great performances. Really long, almost 3 hours long, but if you're looking for a good gangster movie that not many people talk about anymore, especially a Mexican-American gangster film, Blood In, Blood Out's the one for you. That one is excellent. Blue Steel. This is Catherine Bigelow, right? Yep, Catherine Bigelow, Blue Steel. Great Catherine Bigelow early film of hers from the 80s. I think she did this one right before Near Dark, her vampire epic, which is one of the best vampire films ever. And let's see, moving on. Body Double, really cool Brian De Palma film. Really trippy, sort of what the is going on sort of movie. Psychological as hell, but really good. Really great cinematography. Let's see, Boogie Nights, Paul Thomas Anderson, who is such a phenomenal filmmaker. Everything he touches is a masterpiece, in my opinion. Honestly, Boogie Nights, obviously, The Master, Let There Be Blood, Magnolia. He doesn't make a movie unless he's gonna make it perfect, And I love him for that. Bound, which is a Wachowski sisters film, and one of the only ones of theirs that I haven't seen. This is supposed to be an excellent lesbian crime thriller. So this was sort of the inspiration for Fear Effect, the games for the PS1, Fear Effect 1 and 2, from what I understand. So I'm looking forward to Bound. Really want to check that out. Boxcar Bertha, early crime film by Scorsese. Really cool. Barbara Hershey. Breakdown, such an underrated Kurt Russell film. Jonathan Mostow film. I mean, this is just a balls-to-the-wall thriller. Nerve-wracking as hell. Tense, short, sweet, 93 minutes, 97. Nobody talks about this movie. It's got so much energy. Bully. Man, this movie f***ed me up as a kid. I was a teenager when I saw this. Early teens. I caught it on HBO or something. Larry Clark film. The only Larry Clark film I've seen. I've not even seen Kids. But this is about a group of kids who accidentally, well, not so accidentally, kill one of their friends. And it's just about them dealing with it and trying to hide the body and get away with it. It's tense stuff. Really good. Bully's awesome. Cape Fear. Haven't seen the original yet. That's sad for me to say. Chinatown. I like Chinatown. I'm not so crazy about it like everybody else, but maybe it'll grow on me next time I see it. Moving down here. Last shelf. Forgive me, guys. It's dark. It's dark down here. Colors. Love Colors. Another urban crime film starring Sean Penn and Robert Duvall as cops, and they're dealing with the Bloods and the Crips in East LA. Love Colors. I need to upgrade that one. Crack House, Crimson River, some good kind of French crime thrillers starring Jean Reno, directed by Mathieu Kassovitz. Crimson Tide, Tony Scott, Denzel, their first collaboration, which I haven't seen. Cruising, which I hear is sort of a slasher. It's an archive collection, so a slasher starring Al Pacino. I mean, it's not a horror film, but I hear it's sort of like a slasher. So that intrigues me. Day of the Jackal, that's a remake, this is the original. Bruce Willis was in the remake called The Jackal, Bruce Willis and Richard Gere, which is a film I enjoy. I think it's pretty good. Dead Bang, that's a Don Johnson, John Frankenheimer film. Haven't seen it. I'm trying to own all of Frankenheimer's movies. Dead Man's Shoes, not a bad revenge thriller. A lot of people love this movie, praise it. I don't think it's that great, but I think it's good, Patty Considine. I love this movie. Deadbeat at Dawn, exploitation goodness right here. Released by Synapse. Who's the guy that did this? Jim Van Bebber. Yeah, Jim Van Bebber. And he stars in this as well. It's exploitation, it's violent as hell, kind of a revenge flick. Really interesting lead guy with an interesting performance. He direct, wrote, and starred in it, so can't go wrong with that. Death Sentence, James Wan film I haven't seen, Kevin Bacon revenge movie. Deep Cover, this is a pretty good Lawrence Fishburne and Jeff Goldblum crime thriller from the 90s, early 90s. Elephant is a pretty tough to watch Gus Van Sant film. Important, but tough to watch. It's essentially loosely based on the Columbine massacre. It's called Elephant. Again, tough to watch. It's not one that I want to watch it again, but it's hard to bring myself to do so. I need to be in a really specific mood for that shit. And I've got to have something lined up to watch right after it. You know, it's one of those. Elite Squad, haven't seen these movies yet. Hear they're pretty good Brazilian action, crime films. Empire, saw this joint in the theaters with my old school crew in high school. Empire, this is it's a gangster flick starring John Leguizamo and like Fat Joe and a bunch of people, so not bad. I remember liking it. It probably doesn't hold up too well, but I like Leguizamo, man. He's an underrated actor. Agatha Christie, Extreme Justice. It's a Lou Diamond Phillips film. I haven't talked about Lou Diamond Phillips. I'm a big fan of Lou Diamond Phillips. I love a lot of movies he's in, even things like Bats. He just has charisma. He has the ability to carry a film. The First Power is one of my favorites of his. He was in The Big Hit, too. He was pretty whack in The Big Hit. Falling Down, one of Joel Schumacher's best, if not his best. Such a timely movie. This movie will always hold up. It's just about a man who can't take the shit of the society we've built for ourselves anymore and just goes on a rampage to eradicate crime. Great movie. This one gets me every time. That ending just crushes my soul. Makes me weep like a child. Tony Scott, not one of his best, The Fan. I have watched this a few times, but I picked this up recently. It was sealed, so... One of Tony Scott's weaker films, but not bad. Great performances by De Niro and Snipes. De Niro plays a crazed fan who's obsessed with Wesley Snipes, who plays a baseball player. Not bad. Average Tony Scott. Fingers, haven't seen this one. Really want to see this. Harvey Keitel plays a gangster piano player. That's all I need to know. Flim Flam Man. Haven't seen this one either. This is a Twilight Time release on DVD. George C. Scott. Supposed to be pretty good. The Following, Christopher Nolan's first feature. Haven't seen it. Actually, it might be the only Chris Nolan film I haven't seen. 3 films called Framed. Don't ask. Freeway. A good take on Little Red Riding Hood with Kiefer Sutherland, who plays a creeper and a half. Good movie. Here's a great urban drama, crime drama, starring Sam Jack. Fresh, just tragic stuff about a kid growing up in the hood, and he's obviously exposed to all this gang violence, and it's a brutal film, but man, it's a telling film. It's of its time, and great movie. I love this one. I always, anytime I watch Juice, I end up watching this one, Fresh and Juice. They're very different. But in similar in a lot of ways too, and they both have 5 letters to their name. That's the real reason. Funland, which is a weird crime amusement park clown movie. Thought it was a horror film, but it's really not. The Game, this is on Criterion, and I need it, man. I need it on Blu-ray at least. It's such a phenomenal thriller, directed by David Fincher. This is one of his best, and nobody talks about The Game anymore. Such a twisty-turny movie with just a great ending, and it all comes together wonderfully. Michael Douglas is perfect in the role. Perfect. Gang-related, Gangster Number 1. Good gangster flick. Good English gangster flick here, starring Malcolm McDowell and Paul Bettany. Paul Bettany plays the young version of Michael McDowell's character. Ghost Rider, I wasn't a huge fan of this Roman Polanski film with Pierce Brosnan, but I like a lot of Polanski's work. He's an awful human being, but I like his work, and I love Pierce Brosnan, obviously, so... The Good Shepherd, Robert De Niro, one of the few films he's directed. This and The Bronx Tale, which is one of my favorites. This is like 3 hours long, so haven't gotten to this one yet. But it's got a great cast. Pesci's in it even. It's supposed to be a good CIA sort of crime, maybe not a thriller, drama more so. I don't know. Gotham, Graceland, Green Street Hooligans, Hackers, Hack the Planet. Love this movie. 90s as all hell. Angelina Jolie, Johnny Lee Miller, fast-paced, kinetic energy. 90s. I miss you. Hard Candy. Wasn't impressed with this first time around. Everybody loves it. I wasn't too impressed, but I want to give it another whirl at some point. Ellen Page, Patrick Wilson. Hard 8. Oh, talk about PTA films. This is one of his earliest films. It's about a hitman and a poker player, essentially, and they get into some shit, and worlds collide, and madness ensues. Paul Thomas Anderson, another damn near perfect movie, in my opinion. And getting to the end here, we've got Holcroft Covenant. It's a Michael Caine and John Frankenheimer film. Definitely want to check that one out. And last but not least, we'll talk about Hunted, which is a good Friedkin film. A little underrated. Tommy Lee Jones and Benicio del Toro have a nice knife fight in this one. it's a thriller. You know, Tommy Lee Jones' character is on the hunt for this. He's on sort of a tracker. He's on the hunt for Benicio del Toro. I believe he's killing a bunch of people or something like that. Alright guys, well thanks for checking out my second part of my first shelf of the DVD collection. Like I said, this is probably going to end up being like 6 parts here. This is my first shelf covering everything from action to crime. And still got some more crime obviously to go on my other shelf. But if you hung in this long, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this, as well as the little bell for notifications. Let me know what films that I talked about you guys enjoy. What are some of your favorites that I own? And what are some of your favorites that you own? I'd love to get a discussion going. So I really appreciate you guys checking this video out. And I will see you all next time. Bored Cyborg, out. Peace. This time, the other way. Focus. Focus. Thank you. Peace.